So today's session will be geared towards the application process of all the graduate programs that we offer here at the USC Leonard Davis School of Gerontology. I do encourage you, if you have any specific questions regarding any documents or any program or date or specific questions that you don't want to share live, reach out to an admission counselor. We're more than happy to help answer any questions, no matter how specific they are to you. Today, I'm going to gear the program into three main sections: our master's and graduate certificate programs that do not require any prerequisites, our master's programs that do require prerequisites, and then finally, our PhD programs. So let's begin with our select master's and graduate certificate programs that do not require any prerequisites. That includes our MS and MA in gerontology, our Masters of Arts in Aging Services Management and Long-Term Care Administration, our Medical Gerontology and Senior Living Hospitality degree, our Food Service Management and Dietetics, as well as our graduate certificate. So in order to apply to all of those programs, you'll need a couple of things. First, you'll need to start an online application. If you reach out to an admission counselor, we can send you a direct link to the online application. On the online application, you'll have some basic information such as your name, address, birth date, telephone number, and email address. That way we can contact you with any questions that we have while you work on the application. In the application system, there will be a space for you to also upload your resume or your current CV, as well as your statement of interest. 2 letters of recommendation. We'll ask you to send all of your official transcripts and your GRE. So let's go into each of these documents a little bit more. For our online application, this is the direct link here to the application. It allows you to choose which semester you would like to apply to. Currently, our applications are typically released in early fall for the year. So around September time is when the applications will be released for the PhD programs, our spring start dates for select master's programs and graduate certificate, as well as the following fall for master's and graduate certificate programs. I recommend downloading our PDF checklist, which you can find directly on our website, gero.usc.edu. In the application portal, there's 4 main modules. One of the personal information that I was describing about your name and your email address. Next section will include your academic history. This will allow you to input your GPA, which schools you graduated from. I do recommend inputting any institution that you attended, even if it was just for one class, any institution after high school. The next section will be supporting information. This is where you can upload all of those documents, such as your resume or updated CV. And then the final section will be the program materials. So depending upon which program you are applying for, you'll be required to submit some additional materials. Once you have everything uploaded and filled in, you'll be asked to submit a $90 application fee, and then you can check the status of your application through this portal. If you're granted admission into the program, you can check back, and that will include the next steps of how to certify and then start the enrollment process. For the resume and statement of interest. For your resume, this is any format that you wish. It can include any publications, work experience, education background, anything that you would include on your normal resume or CV. For your statement of interest, this is a great opportunity for us to get to know you. So I would recommend explaining what experiences have led you to gerontology. That can be work experiences, personal experiences, or an interest that you found in a previous class that you've already taken. This is also a great space for you to describe some of your education goals and your career goals. What led you to apply to our gerontology program and what you wish to achieve by enrolling in the program. We'll also request that you submit 2 letters of recommendation. This will work in the following manner. You'll input all of your recommenders' information, including their email address. There's also a space for you to leave a personalized message to your recommenders. Once you verify that that information is correct, your recommenders will receive an email with a direct link to upload their letter of recommendation, as well as an evaluation. If your recommenders are unable to submit their letter of recommendation through this link, please reach out to your admission counselor or myself, and we can help guide you through the steps. If they also choose to submit their letter of recommendation via physical mail, the letter can come to this address that's listed here. For all official transcripts, I do recommend submitting them once you start your application. The official transcript verification process can take us anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks once we receive them. So if you are cutting it close to the deadline or the deadline's quickly approaching, I highly recommend submitting those official transcripts right away. If you are looking at the deadline, I'd suggest submitting your application, and then your official transcripts can come and be processed in our system after you've already submitted your application as well. If your school was located in the US, most likely they can submit them electronically. If your previous institution doesn't do that, you can also send them to the following address and we will process them accordingly. For GRE, for those select programs, we are able to waive the GRE test scores if you have a strong academic background. Typically, this is if you have a 3.0 GPA or higher, we can waive the GRE test scores. If you're right at that mark, that 3.0 mark, reach out to a admission counselor and we can guide you appropriately. If your GPA was below a 3.0, I do recommend submitting your GRE test scores as it'll help strengthen your application. If you are planning on submitting your GRE test scores, we are looking for a minimum score of 297. We do offer merit-based scholarship for these select master's and graduate certificate programs. We offer up to $500,000 annually to our students. You can apply directly for our merit-based scholarship directly on the application. There's a box that says if you'd like to be considered for fellowships or assistantships or funding. Select that, it'll lead you to some supplemental questions. And I recommend being as detailed with those questions as possible, and then you'll be considered. If you're granted admission into the program, a couple days later, your application will be sent to the scholarship committee and they'll make a scholarship decision. So if you are granted admission, I do recommend waiting a couple of days, up to 2 weeks after receiving your admittance letter, as it takes us that long to process the scholarship decisions, sometimes even longer. For international students wishing to apply to these select master's and graduate certificate programs, we will require a couple of additional documents. For country-specific requirements, I suggest following this link here. I can also email you a link, or my colleagues can email you this link as well. This will give you specific information about official transcripts or any other documents that you'll need to submit based upon where you completed your prior degree. If you need to submit English language proficiency test scores, if you completed your degree outside of the US or from a non-Anglophone speaking country, we accept the TOEFL, the IELTS, or the PTE. The appropriate scores are listed here. And if you have any questions about minimum scores, about overall scores, please feel free to reach out. So we do have a couple of priority deadlines for these programs depending upon your desired start date. We are still accepting applications for our fall 2021 start date on a rolling basis. If you're interested in starting in fall 2021, I suggest submitting your application as soon as possible. If you're interested in starting in spring 2022, which has a January start date, the application will become available in early fall, around September time, and will be due October 15th, 2021. If you want to be considered for the merit-based scholarship, we can guarantee that your application will be considered if you submit before the priority deadline. However, if the priority deadline passes, you can still submit your application on a rolling basis. If you're interested in starting in fall 2022, which has an August fall 2022 start date, the priority deadline will be March 15th. And again, that application will become available in early fall 2021. Now I would like to move on to our master's programs that have prerequisites. That includes our MS in Nutrition, Health Span, and Longevity, our MS in Nutritional Sciences, and our MS in Lifespan Nutrition and Dietetics. So let's go over each prerequisite for the program specifically. So you'll be required to submit all of those documents that I just discussed in addition to the prerequisites. So for the Master of Science in Nutritional Sciences, you'll be asked to submit either your DPD verification statement or your registered dietitianist registration. If you have any questions about how to submit that or the paperwork that's necessary to submit that, feel free to reach out. For the Master of Science in Lifespan Nutrition and Dietetics, we do have four courses that we will require you to have already completed prior to starting our program. So you can submit your application while you're still finishing these prerequisites. We just require that they'll be done before the start of our program. You can reach out to an admission counselor to see if the courses that you've already taken will qualify to fulfill these prerequisites. We are looking for a specific unit number and a semester or quarter count. We prefer the semester for units with a lab component. If you've already completed a DPD, you can submit that verification statement in lieu of these four prerequisite courses. For our Master of Science in Nutrition, Health Span, and Longevity program, this program does require the most prerequisites. You will need to submit a letter that's signed by a mentor of a registered dietitianist saying that you have completed 40 hours of shadow experience working under them or internship experience working under them. In addition, we'll have 11 prerequisite courses. None of these prerequisite courses can be more than 10 years old at time of submitting your application. For those 11 prerequisite courses, I do suggest reaching out to an admission counselor as we can send you a prerequisite chart that includes all 11 courses, and then you can send it back to us so that we can work with you to see which courses will fulfill our programs. If you have yet to complete all of them, we can also give you better direction on which proposed courses you may take, especially if that's the food science prerequisite course. Deadlines for these programs with prerequisites include our Master of Science in Nutrition, Health Span, and Longevity program, which only has one admission cycle per year. The next admission cycle, the application will become available in September time and will be due January 15th, 2022. The start date will then be for our fall 2022 semester, which starts in August. For our Master of Science in Nutritional Sciences and our Master of Science in Lifespan Nutrition and Dietetics, those programs have two start dates per year, a fall start date and a spring start date. If you're interested in starting in spring 2022, the priority deadline will be October 15th. And if you're interested in fall 2022 start date, the priority deadline will be March 15th. Again, like our other master's programs, we will be accepting applications on a rolling basis after the priority deadlines. If you are interested in starting one of these two nutrition programs in fall 2021, we are offering special scholarship opportunities with our merit-based scholarship, as it will be our first cohort, and we are excited to get the program started. Next, I would like to move into our doctorate programs. We have two, our PhD in gerontology and our PhD in biology of aging. Similar to our master's programs, you'll be required to submit an online application. However, the GRE test scores will be required of all applicants. You'll need to submit a resume or updated CV, a statement of interest, which has some more requirements, 3 letters of recommendation, a writing sample, and official transcripts. So let's dive into this a little bit more specifically. The GRE test scores will be required. So we are looking for a minimum of 297 and around a 308 to be competitive. The GRE test scores must be valid from within the 5 years of intended start date. So if you're interested in starting fall 2022, your test scores need to be valid from fall 2018 or later. For our PhD resume and statement of interest, if you have any research experience, I suggest talking about that in the statement of interest, as that's a great way to talk about your experiences, your desire to study gerontology in more depth. One unique thing that we are also looking for in the statement of purpose, specifically for the PhD programs, is 2 to 3 faculty members that you're interested in working with and why. If you're having trouble identifying faculty members, I suggest going to our website, looking under faculty, tenured and tenure track faculty, as these are potential faculty members that can advise you and work with you throughout the duration of the program. We're looking for you to identify which ones you're interested in working with and why you're interested in working with them, whether that be your research interests align or you're interested in current research or past research project that the faculty member performed. For the PhD application, we will require 3 letters of recommendation. Similar to the master's program, they will receive a link via email and be able to upload all documents via the email that they receive. Again, if they have any troubles, they're more than welcome to submit a physical copy that's signed to our address that's listed here. We will also require you to submit a writing sample. So this can be uploaded directly onto the online application. If you do choose to submit a manual manuscript length as your writing sample, we do ask that you then send a physical copy to us. For the writing sample, this can be either any published or unpublished piece of work by you. It can talk about research, it can be your master's thesis, it can be an honors thesis, it can be any paper from a previous class that you've already written, or it can be a new sample of writing that you write specifically for this program. It does not have to be based solely on the biology of aging or gerontology specifically. We're looking at your ability to write, your ability to perform research, and just a sample of your writing in general. We will also, for the PhD program, require all official transcripts. Like our master's programs, it will take us approximately 2 to 4 weeks to process them in our system. So if you're aiming for that December 1st deadline, I do suggest submitting those transcripts as soon as you start the application. If you're applying from outside of the US, you may need to mail a physical copy of your transcripts, which you can then send to this address listed here. For international students, again, there will be some additional requirements for the PhD application. If you click on this link below, we can also email it to you. It will detail exactly what you need to submit, depending upon which country you've completed your prior degree. For English language proficiency test scores, if they are needed, they are higher scores than the master's degrees. Please note that we will accept TOEFL, IELTS, and PTE for English language proficiency test scores, and we will have a minimum for each section with a higher overall grade. We do have one admission cycle for the PhD programs. The PhD programs will start in fall every year, and the deadline will be December 1st of the year prior. So for our fall 2022 start date, which begins in August, the application will be due December 1st, 2021. Again, this application will become available in early September or early fall of every year. If you do have any questions specific to you about any documents, I do suggest reaching out to an admission counselor. We're more than happy to set up time with you If you run into any complications while you are starting the application or submitting the application, feel free to reach out to us and we can guide you through that process. At this time, I would like to take any questions that we may have. You're more than welcome to put your questions in the chat, or you can also turn on your camera and unmute yourself and ask your questions live. We do have one about submitting a published paper as a writing sample, or can it be a master's thesis report? So a writing sample is, again, only for the PhD programs. It can be either. So it can be a published paper, it can be an unpublished paper. If you're submitting a published paper and there are multiple authors, I would suggest either indicating which section you contributed to, and then also submitting an additional writing sample that you're the sole author. But if you want to submit that published paper, or you're a first author or co-author, that's another great option as well. If you want to submit that master's thesis, that's great too. Just please note, if it is manuscript length, so 100 pages or more, we ask that you mail us a copy physically. Otherwise, you can upload directly into the application portal. And you only need to submit one writing sample for the PhD programs. It's only if you are choosing to submit a writing sample where there are multiple authors and you only contributed, let's say, a paragraph or two or a page. That's when I would then suggest submitting another sample of your writing that is multiple pages written by you. Next question is regarding the Master of Science in Nutrition, Health Span, and Longevity. Yes, so if for any of those prerequisites, if you have not finished them prior to the application deadline, go ahead and submit your application. For your official transcripts, then we're going to require you to submit everything that you've already completed and those courses that you're enrolled in or going to be enrolled in. Once we have that, if you are granted admission, then it will be a contingency admission until we receive those final grades. So as long as all of those courses are completed by the start date of our program, which will be fall 2022 for the next start date, that will be fine. Can you apply to a master's and a PhD program? Great question. Yes, you can technically apply to both. However, I would suggest reaching out to a admission counselor to see which one you're more interested in and how you're going to lay out your application based upon the deadlines. So they are different deadlines. Our application deadline for the PhD program is December 1st, and that's a hard deadline. We will not accept applications after the deadline. With our master's programs, we do have the priority deadline and also accept on a rolling basis. It just depends upon which master's program you're interested in and what you're interested in pursuing after a degree completion. For our PhD in Biology of Aging program for the Statement of Interest, that is where you can list all of your desired faculty members. 2 to 3 is recommended. So those can be faculty members either from the Buck Institute or from the USC Leonard Davis School of Gerontology. It can be both. If you're interested in only working with Buck Institute faculty, that's great. Go ahead and list them there. And if you're only interested in USC people, that's great as well. Recommend just listing 2 to 3 and your reasons why. Daniel, do you have a question?
Hi, yes, Stephen. Sorry, I came in 5 minutes late, and I right at the end during the part about the letters of recommendation. Quick question about that. Is there a specific way for those to be submitted? I know, for example, that pre-med students have to use some kind of special confidential portal. Do we have something like that we need to use, or is it just sort of you receive something from someone and then you print it out and include it in your application?
Yeah, great question. So for all our programs, submitting letters of recommendation will be the same. In the application portal, there'll be a section for letters of recommendation. You input your recommender's name and email address and some other details. And there's a box where you can include a personalized message to them. Once you've verified all that information is correct, they'll receive an email with a direct link to upload their evaluation and their letter of recommendation. Once they've uploaded that, you'll receive notification that it's been submitted, and we will receive it and directly attach it to your application.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, our next question is about the proportion of MET students that get scholarship and what percentage of tuition is typically covered. Good question. So our admission committee and our scholarship committee look at all the applications holistically. We view all applicants equally, either domestically or internationally. So it really depends upon your specific application, how much scholarship you may be awarded. It also depends upon our scholarship pool for that semester. We look at online and residential students the same as well. For percentage of tuition, I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I do suggest applying, as most students that apply do receive some sort of amount. And even if it's $500, $1,000, all the way up to $10,000, any amount's going to help with your program. Here at the university, we also have a Department of Financial Aid, Office of International Students, and the Office of the Registrar. All three departments have great information about other options to fund your program, whether that be a payment plan, financial aid, or loans, or other funding options such as a scholarship or a grant. So if you want to reach out, I can send you all of the links to all those departments as well. For letters of recommendation, great question about letters of recommendation and who they can come from. So they can come from previous faculty members, previous professors that you've already had. I would suggest submitting one that you've had more than just one class with, as they'll be able to give a longer, more heartfelt letter to you. If you've been out of school for a while or you don't stay in touch with your professors or faculty members, a supervisor, a boss, an employer is also a great option. Anyone that can speak about your abilities to complete the rigors of the program and give us some insight into who you are and why you're interested in this program.
I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, I spent 10 years in veterinary aftercare,
Mhm.
and I took a lot of classes at the junior college level, working towards a vet tech or getting into pre-vet programs and all of that. So that's 10 years ago of 10 years. And the remaining, a lot of junior college classes, you know, just a lifelong learner in theater, performing arts, and things of that nature. But my BA is from NYU.
Mhm.
So am I just sending you that BA back long time ago, or am I now sending all of these other little JC classes that I took that could be just filling up a box
Yes.
of stuff?
Yeah, so we will require you to submit all of those transcripts as well. Any class that you take in, no matter how small or little the class was, we're going to require you to submit all the transcripts.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay, all right.
Our next question is about scholarship, if it's one time. So if you do receive our merit-based scholarship from the School of Gerontology itself, your letter will specify for what term your scholarship's available. If your scholarship's available for a semester or an academic year, you can always reapply for scholarship the next year. It's a great way. And if you improve your grades or you're strong academically during that time, it could also be a way for you to improve your scholarship as well, potentially. We have a question about when you can expect to hear about an admission decision after the priority deadlines and our deadlines. With our Select Masters programs, that have the start dates in fall and semester. You can hear anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks after the priority deadline and about an admission decision. And then a scholarship decision can be about another week or 2 after that. For our PhD application process, after that December 1st deadline, you'll hear back in probably early January about the next steps, which are our PhD visit day, which includes the interview process. After that interview process and PhD visit day, you can expect a final admission decision in either late March or early April. For our Masters of Science in Nutrition, Health Span, and Longevity program, the deadline is January 15th every year. 2 to 4 weeks, you'll hear back about the next steps in that application process. And you will also hear back in late March, typically sometimes early April, about final admission decision. Please note that if you don't hear back for the nutrition program or the PhD programs about an interview or a campus visit, please note that that's not actually mean a denial admission decision. We are just going through the steps, and that's why it does take so long, is because we are being as thorough as possible. Great. Looks like, yeah,
Sorry,
go
I think
ahead.
it'd be easier for me to say it than type it. So for the Masters in Nutrition, Health Span, and Longevity, after we submit our application, could you just go over what the interview and like campus visit might be like?
Yeah, so the campus visit will be for the PhD programs only. If you are selected for the Master of Science in Nutrition, Health Span, and Longevity program, the interview will be with 2 faculty members that work with the program specifically. They could potentially be other people as well if that's deemed necessary. Typically, it will be either a Zoom or a Skype call if you're not in the LA area. If you are in the LA area, you may be invited to campus depending upon the certain health situations involved around visitors on campus. And if you are selected for that, we will definitely send you more information with appropriate amount of time to prepare.
Thank you.
If you're interested, I'm interested in diabetes type 3 in relationship to Alzheimer's. But the nutrition certainly is critical because of the diabetes and blood sugar and things like that. What would be the best area, not having a full background in that medical area, but wanting to work more in community education, information, and maybe data collecting and things of that nature? What's the master's program best for that?
Yeah, so if you wanted to delve specifically into the nutritional side of it, I would probably recommend our Master of Arts in Food Service Management and Dietetics program. That would allow you to explore nutrition without having to have any of the prerequisites in nutrition. If you're interested in more of the social aspect and getting a holistic approach to the sociology and the policy, also including psychology around it, maybe our Master of Science or Master of Arts in Gerontology. So I know earlier you mentioned that you had some experience already. So if some of that experience would equal 2 to 5 years in an applicable field to gerontology, that would definitely be the Master of Arts degree then.
Okay, thank you.
If you want to study a little bit more in depth and include more courses and potentially have an internship or a field practicum within it, that would then be our Masters of Science in Gerontology program.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Yes. Great. Do we have any other last minute questions? Wonderful. My colleague is going to drop in the chat the raffle one last time. For those of you that have joined us for multiple sessions this week, I want to say thank you. We appreciate you attending them. All of the sessions this week have been recorded. As soon as we decide to publish and release them, I will also send you all of the links in case you missed any sessions. One last opportunity for questions. Otherwise, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.